here's the point. That even if you're kind of like shabby at virtually everything you do, there's still a place for you within the division of labor. Even if somebody else is amazing at doing things, a million different things, he simply does not have time to do all those things in the course of a day. So he must have assistance. And if you cooperate, people of low skills and people of high skills cooperate, then both parties are better off in the end. And you can absolutely prove this. And this is the magic of the division of labor, is that it finds a place for every single human soul in the great productive enterprise of global economics.
So we have the right to private property and the division of labor. Big changes in human history that created significant wealth. But the real magic comes from the third big shift that happened, the right to freely exchange goods and services, the right to trade with one another freely. That is a massive invisible hand, as economists like to call it, the invisible magic of huge wealth creation, which socialists, like our little 16-year-old friend on the project, would happily destroy tomorrow if they could in their foolish ignorance.
An exchange is a mutual gift giving. And that happens every time you're engaged in any commercial activity. And I can give you my most recent example. Actually, last night at 10 o'clock, I went into Taco Bell with $1.99 in my pocket. And I looked up at that menu and I thought, is there anything in this menu that's worth to me more than what I have in my pocket? So I said to the lady, I said, listen, I have $1.99 in my pocket, and it's worth a lot to me in many ways, but your Enchilada is worth even more to me than what I own. What about you? What's your sense? Is your Enchilada worth, I know it's worth a lot to you, but do you think that my money might actually be worth even more than your Enchilada? And she said to me, I'm so glad you brought up this point, because it is, in fact, worth more to me than my Enchilada. And I said, well, why don't we just exchange? And that way you will get a gift of my money, which is worth more than your Enchilada, and I will get a gift, which is your Enchilada, which is worth more than my money. And she said, that is a beautiful idea. And we exchanged with each other. I handed her the money, and she handed me this little plastic tray of mushy, beans and we looked in each other's eyes. And I said to her, thank you. And she said to me, no, thank you. And it was wonderful. And we were so happy afterwards, so much happier than we were before.
Merry Christmas. And that, my friends, is the beauty of free choice and free exchange. You don't need a government in the middle of that transaction taking its 10% in GST or regulating everything to within an inch of your life to suck all the joy out of that magic. And that is the definition of free market liberal capitalism.
If you could repeat this 1 trillion times in the course of an hour all across the world, what would happen? What would happen? The world would be a very beautiful place. And that is, in fact, what is happening all the time. And that is the source of our happiness.
So there you have it. That's why we're rich. The right to own private property, the free division of labor, and the miracle of free exchange and trade. But if we listen to our socialist friends who want everything to be equal all the time and throughout all time, we would all be broke. It'd be equal, all right, equally disastrous. Just ask Argentina and watch last week's episode of The Other Side. Yet we listen to these kids on TV and their teachers and the Greens, and we think, oh, gee, socialism sounds so nice and kind and compassionate, and it's about fairness, but it's anything but. It relies on force and violence and government, not freedom and happiness to work. And that is why it is evil. That speech that we just watched from Jeffrey Tucker was called Surrounded by the Achievements of Capitalism. It was delivered 12 years ago. But you can search it up online by its title, Surrounded by the Achievements of Capitalism by Jeffrey Tucker. Now, how hard was that story to tell? That's all we've got to teach kids about economics at school, but we don't. we fill their heads with a sense of entitlement and a sense of grievance with some sick narrative which is totally false about oppressors and oppression, day in and day out. And if we don't stop doing that, we're going to destroy this very rich little miraculous period in history that we've created. A period which has seen the greatest alleviation of poverty, the greatest extension of lifespans, the greatest improvement in health and quality of life for more people than ever across the world in the entirety of human history. So if anyone says to you this Christmas that capitalism is evil, tell them this story. And maybe, just maybe, they might listen. And if not right away, then at least you'll have sown a tiny seed of doubt. And one day, in the future, they'll remember and thank you for it.